Now, our keynote speaker today is a person who was born and raised in Rockland County and was involved in local government even as a teenager. At 16, he was an intern for the State Assemblyman Alex Gromack, who is now the town supervisor of Clarkstown. And at 17, he was a student worker in the Rockland County Clerk's office, where, amongst other things, he worked on naturalization ceremonies such as the one today. On a full academic scholarship, he went on to Pace University and earned his bachelor's degree in political science, and he graduated at the top of his class. He continued on at Pace for his master's in business administration, and then doing very well academically, and gave the commencement address at Radio City Music Hall before 5,000 people. Even with a busy schedule, this young man found the time to be involved in numerous political campaigns and was elected vice president and president of the Rockland County Young Democrats at the age of 20. In 2010, just days after turning 40, he was elected as councilman for the town of Ramapo. In a 200-year history of that town, Daniel Friedman was the youngest person to be elected. He was then re-elected for another term commencing this year and is one of the youngest elected officials in New York State. Daniel was recently placed in charge of a $2 million project aimed at bringing green technology to the town of Ramapo. Now, with pleasure, I introduce you, Councilman Daniel Friedman. I don't want to tell you what I did when I was in my 20s, but go ahead, Mr. Friedman.
You know what I did.
Well, thank you, Judge Walsh, for that introduction. And I want to thank our county clerk, Paul Piparato, and all the deputy clerks and Debbie Robercheck from the clerk's office who worked so hard to coordinate these ceremonies. You know, it was mentioned that I had worked at a naturalization ceremony. It was actually held in this very room. I just graduated high school, so Debbie, that was what, 3 years ago? 9 years ago. And I remember working with Debbie and Paul and so many from the clerk's office on the ceremony, so being up here as the keynote speaker today is quite personal for me as well. I want to begin by addressing you in a manner that you have now earned. My fellow Americans, you did it. Today you're officially American. But through your hard work and struggles to get here this morning, you have already done something uniquely American. You had a dream. You set out to fulfill it, and today you have. In this room are men and women and children who have come from different shores and different lands. In this room are people who celebrate today great triumphs over the great trials they have faced. And in this room, each of you have in yourselves that great American spirit. And that is something that cannot be tested by any agency, and it is something that cannot be taken by any agent. So in this room, let me say this. You all make me proud to be an American. Today you become part of the greatest nation, but you are now also part of the greatest idea. An idea forged by simple men almost 250 years ago, in a room smaller than this, by people united by a conviction of righteousness and a commitment to justice, all thirsty for the waters of freedom that sprung forth from the fountains of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights that they wrote together. Our founding fathers began in their time what they called the greatest experiment, and what we must continue in our time as a mantle of freedom and obligation, the freedom to choose our own destiny, and the obligation to preserve that freedom for the next generation. But we are a great nation. We're the greatest nation, and that's why you're all here. You've learned a new culture, and today it becomes your culture. You've learned a new history, and today it becomes your history. And in your time here, you have learned all you need to know about living in this new nation, and today it becomes your nation. I envy each of you. I envy you because you have all worked hard to become Americans, and I was simply fortunate to be born here. I did not earn it through challenge and toil as you have. Now, this is a defining moment in your life, and I want to share with you a defining moment in the life of our nation. Now, you all know about the American Revolution. In July of 1776, we declared our independence, and then we were off to fight for it. Well, at the end of 1776, things were not going so well for us. George Washington retreated across the Delaware, not far from here, and our troops were cold and hungry, and they had incredibly low morale, and we were losing the war. Now, Thomas Paine, who many of you know, wrote the pamphlet Common Sense, decided to write again. And this time he wrote a pamphlet called The American Crisis. And he wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and sunshine patriot will in this crisis flee from the service of their country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we achieve too easily, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value." I'm sure that there were times when you thought that becoming a citizen here was something that was too difficult or too challenging. Times when there were so many things getting in your way. Times when even other people may have told you that this was just something that could not be done. Times when you thought that maybe you would give up or even leave this country. I want you all to think about Thomas Paine's words and how they relate to your American story. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we achieve too easily, we esteem too lightly. I envy you because you have not achieved this citizenship lightly. Because you have not achieved your citizenship lightly, you will never esteem it lightly. And no matter what comes your way, from this day to your last day, that piece of paper with your citizenship of this nation upon it will always be your most prized possession. Now let's go back to those cold, dark days of 1776. Now, when those words were written by Thomas Paine, they inspired Washington's troops to fight. And they won a very decisive victory in Trenton, New Jersey, to turn the course of the war and the world around. Like Washington and his troops on the Delaware, you too have fought for your right to be here and won. So when you leave this hall today, and you live out the rest of your days in this great nation of yours, remember those who came before you, and consider those who will come after you. Remember that sacred obligation that at this moment all of us in this room share together, whether we have been Americans for 15 minutes or all of our lives, to preserve the greatness of our nation and the freedoms we cherish for those who will come long after we are gone. So today I want to close with two words that embody why you are here. A simple expression that you have all been waiting so long to hear. Welcome home. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless the United States. Thank you.